¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Bienvenidos. Comenzamos nuestra conexión global para compartir reportajes realizados en todo el mundo. En esta primera parte vamos a hablar de mujeres, de la lucha femenina en Arabia Saudí para poder conducir una lucha que demandó unos 30 años, pero que finalmente consiguió su objetivo. Y también modelos que a los 25 años dicen sentirse viejas, hablan de abusos en la profesión y del racismo también como problemas con los que se cruzan diariamente.
I never look at my phone when I wake up. I was just looking at the time, and it was breaking news. Saudi, the King Salman decree. I thought it's a prank.
It wasn't what these Saudi activists expected to hear on a late Tuesday in September.
To be honest, I can't believe it until now. I think maybe we're dreaming.
But after years of protests, they had won. The king announced that Saudi Arabia was lifting the ban on women driving in the country.
I'm so happy that I lived it.
You should have seen me yesterday. I couldn't sleep. I was laughing out loud and screaming and yelling. It was like a crazy woman.
It was really long overdue, but it's happening, and let's celebrate it.
For these Saudi women, who all defied the driving ban at one point over the last 3 decades, the decision was a long time coming. Here's a look back at 4 critical milestones in the women's driving movement in Saudi Arabia. The first protests against the driving ban took place in November 1990, when 47 women packed their cars and drove around the capital. It was a rare and daring public act of defiance. Madiha Al-Ajroush drove her Chevrolet that day.
In 1990, there were the Gulf War, and we felt helpless, and we felt that we needed to be part of helping our countries. And it was also a good time, we felt, to express our need to drive.
The struggle I think we went through, it wasn't just for the mechanical thing of getting into the car and driving from one A to B. It was, a struggle for power.
Fawzia Al-Bakr was also behind the wheel.
And these religious people came with their huge vans, and they just, blocked our way and said, yeah, turn, make you turn. So we did make you turn, and that guy was really mad. And said, oh, I'm going to kill you. I wish I could kill you because you're destroying our society, destroying our women.
A lot of us were scared. We were aware of the magnitude of our action. Nevertheless, we did take that big step.
The backlash was immediate. The Interior Ministry argued that women driving contradicted Islamic society and harmed the sanctity of women. It went on to stress that women were strictly not allowed to drive. At least half a dozen women lost their teaching jobs. Others were told to keep a low profile. A leaflet with the names of the women was anonymously distributed throughout Saudi society. It was titled, "The Name of the Fallen Women, the Advocates of Vice and Corruption on Earth." The harsh response curbed public acts of defiance for nearly 2 decades. It took nearly 21 years for another large-scale campaign to kick in. The year was 2011, and the Arab Spring was raging across the Middle East. Activist Manal al-Sharif seized the opportunity. She became the face of a national campaign encouraging even more women to get behind the wheel.
With the social media, really, with the help of social media, people use it to get reconnected with their friends. We use it to start revolutions and social revolutions like this one.
In May that year, Manal drove her car twice. For that, she was arrested at her home in the middle of the night. She spent 9 days in jail.
It's like we went back in time 21 years because the reaction was the same. Instead of being against 47 women, the same reaction was against one person. That was me. Nothing really provoked the society, especially the extremists, more than the sight of a woman behind the driving wheel.
2 years later, in 2013, dozens took part in yet another nationwide campaign. This time, women were encouraged to post videos of their acts of defiance online. Sahar Nasif was one of these women. She says her goal was to actually get arrested. Doing that would bring more attention to the cause.
I never feared for my safety when I was driving, and I drove 5 times. The major time was on King Road, and I was stopped by 7 police cars like I was a drug dealer. I had bag with me, and I had my cream, my a few change like clothes for 3 days because I expected to be in prison for 3 days.
But that never happened. Instead, a male guardian picked her up from police custody.
He had to sign a paper, and that paper said if I drive again, he's going to be in trouble. My son or anybody in my son or my they're going to take the blame because I'm helpless. The other thing I had to sign too, promising that I'll never drive again.
أهلين معكم لجين الهذلول. أنا الآن في طريق الغويفات بحاول أقطع الحدود السعودية من هناك.
One of the most notable protests in the history of driving activism happened in 2014. It began when social media activist Lujain al-Hadloul tried to drive a car across the Saudi border from the United Arab Emirates. Dubai-based activist Maysa al-Amoudi felt compelled to meet Lujain at the border with supplies.
I didn't imagine that anything bad will happen for me because I know that I'm going just to give her some stuff and I'm coming back. I'm not going to stay on the border, and everything was different.
They were both arrested. They served 73 days in jail, and they were barred from traveling for 9 months.
I think if the government didn't do this, the women could continue asking for the right and doing more movements. And this is something a bit not good, very good for the Saudi Arabia image in the world. This is not normal that two women spend 2 months and a half in the jail just because of driving.
Saudi women won't be able to get behind the wheel until June of 2018. But already, the decision has activists wondering what's next for women's rights in the country.
The structure of the society, which is also based on segregation, it will actually change a whole lot. So we're looking at change within the structure of the family, change within the social structure.
I'd say what's next is the government recognize me as a full citizen by naming an age where I become an adult. That explicitly means ending or abolishing the male guardianship in my country.
Right now, I'm going to try to go and check the Mustang, convertible Mustang, and see if I can buy it through installments. And it's all fun until I get to do all the errands. It's no fun at all. But still, it's a choice.
If you are a young, sexually attractive woman who gets perhaps unwanted attention, you know that appearance matters. If you are Black in America, you know that image matters.
I didn't see anyone who had a visible disability in the mainstream media.
There are about 2 spots in a show for Black girls out of maybe 50.
The conventional ideal of a beautiful woman is a thin white woman.
As I'm getting older, I'm really noticing how the rest of society must feel from looking at these images of 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds as the ideal of beauty.
My understanding of Fashion Week in general is very limited because as a plus-size model, we're never really invited.
We've all kind of been brainwashed into thinking like these Eurocentric Caucasian features are what is attractive.
From what I've seen in my career in the last 9 years, generally fit models, most of the time they look like me.
There are things that I did to compromise my authenticity in order to get my foot in the door, such as straightening my hair, changing what I wore.
My first agent here changed my name from Precious to Victoria.
A lot of the times, designers and clients don't really know where to put me. They're like, is she white, is she Black?
I know that there is like a petite category, a plus size category, but there isn't, if any at all, a category for people with disabilities.
I think I'm literally the biggest Blackest model at IMG. We need more people that have more power and influence to open their mind to different types of beauty.
I had one guy who wanted my nipples to look hard for the shoot to show through. He literally just grabbed my nipple and was like, see, we need it to be hard.
They would talk about my body in front of me. Like they'd say like, Julia's very wide. Everyone keep that in mind, like in a meeting in front of people.
One of my first test shoots in New York, we like drove out to the Hamptons and nobody told me that it was gonna be topless. So I shot topless on the beach and the poses he was asking me to do, and I have never felt so uncomfortable in my life.
Let me help you put lotion on your back, but I don't need help with that because I don't need you touching me.
I had this moment when I was like 20 or 21 years old, and I was like, I understand why Britney Spears had a meltdown and shaved her head, and it's like you get sick of people touching you.
Some people would say that people in the industry have confused being new and having a moment with age. Other people would say that adolescent girls have a sort of a pre-pubescent physique that is favored by designers. The fashion industry seems to have this obsession with extreme youth.
I was a 16-year-old. I was at Disneyland on a camp trip, and I had to rush to New York to shoot an editorial. Showed up to set, and it was S&M inspired, and it was just this like table of anything you could think of. It was whips and cuffs and various balls for various activities, and oh my God, I was just like bright red.
When I was young, I shot with someone who went to jail for pedophilia, so that was really difficult to hear because he shot a lot of young women.
I was at a casting yesterday that felt like a cattle call, and I was looking around and I felt like everyone must have been 16, 17, 18, and here am I, like past 25, really questioning, am I still beautiful? Do I still hold worth?
I think that too often models are trivialized and our concerns are dismissed because we're young women. People would not have been able to turn a blind eye if this were a male-dominated industry.
Fashion is becoming a little more diverse, but we still have a long way to go.
We have to tokenize in order to normalize, but I don't want this shift to be commodified as a trend. I want it to be a reality.
I think that women, they forget that they have consumer power, and if they stop buying into the women's magazines that are always like, lose 15 pounds in 2 weeks. Why do we have to do that?
I believe that everything starts with self-love, and that's what the decision to wear my hair natural really taught me. I'm a model, but I can also be a role model. Being a role model isn't about showing people how to look like you. Being a role model is about using your freedom to show other people it's safe to be themselves.
My imagery is my activism. Like, how could she like herself? I like myself. How could she wear that? I'm wearing it.
In my mind, I'm competing with like the Naomi Campbells and the Kate Mosses of the world, just because, why not?
Y en esta segunda parte de nuestra conexión global vamos a hablar del nuevo uso que le dan a los dromedarios en la India. Además, los lobos marinos y una ley que los protege pero que genera problemas a los pescadores en Chile. Y finalmente, como a los 20 años, una persona tiene oportunidades de percibir el mundo a través de sonidos y de imágenes gracias al implante coclear.
En India, los dromedarios eran considerados las naves del desierto. Estos animales de una sola joroba se usaban como medio de transporte de pasajeros, víveres y agua, pero la modernidad ha cambiado su función para el hombre.
Con el tipo de desarrollo que ha ocurrido, las carreteras han entrado en el desierto y hay buenos medios de transporte disponibles que son mecanizados. Y en la agricultura vemos la cantidad de tractores que vienen aquí. Como resultado, ya no hay trabajo para los camellos en ninguna parte.
Según el Centro Nacional de Investigación sobre el Dromedario, el número de estos animales se redujo 30% en India en unos pocos años. En tiempos no tan lejanos, la jerarquía del pueblo en las comunidades se determinaba en función del tamaño de la manada de cada familia. Pero ahora el alto costo de su mantenimiento ha reducido su valor y el interés por ellos.
Antes teníamos unos 150 camellos, gradualmente se han reducido porque no podemos encontrar mano de obra para cuidarlos. Simplemente ya no generan dinero, es lo opuesto, tenemos que poner nuestro propio dinero para mantenerlos.
En este cambio de época, los propietarios lograron encontrar un nuevo mercado, la leche de camello. La compañía Rati, fundada hace 3 años, es una de las primeras dedicadas a este sector y compra unos 7,000 litros por mes. El producto también permite producir bombones, jabones, quesos, cremas, helados y otros productos derivados. Amul, otra de las principales empresas lecheras de India, comercializa desde enero leche de dromedario en botella en supermercados urbanos del estado de Gujarat.
Vimos que la leche de camello puede mantener muy bien el nivel de glucosa y puede funcionar bien con la diabetes tipo 1 y 2, y ya que India es la capital mundial de la diabetes, podemos usar leche de camello.
Pero aún hay muchos retos. En este mercado emergente aliado a tribus seminómadas, resulta complicado garantizar el control de la calidad y la regularidad del suministro. Los consumidores también deben acostumbrar el paladar a un gusto más salado y espeso que el de la leche bovina. Además, vender leche de dromedario puede ser complicado en un país donde se venera a la vaca y se le atribuyen virtudes espirituales y alimentarias a su leche. Los lobos marinos están protegidos por una veda en Chile desde hace 28 años, luego de que el lobo fino austral y el lobo fino Juan Fernández casi fueron extintos en el siglo XX. El país posee cerca del 40% de la población mundial de estos mamíferos, pero su proliferación se ha convertido en un problema para los pescadores.
El lobo ya no caza. El lobo no caza. El lobo siente el ruido de una embarcación y sabe que allá está la comida. Llega allá el lobo. Y ahí se zambulle.
Cerca de un centenar de estos fuertes mamíferos retosan bajo el muelle de Caleta Portales. Cada uno consume unos 40 kilos diarios de pescado. Según el sindicato de pescadores, 60 embarcaciones trabajan en la zona y más del 80% regresan vacías con las redes destruidas. La misma dinámica se repite en Valparaíso.
Al no tener competidores, al no tener suficientes predadores, el número se ha estirado al máximo, llegando a competir con este otro predador que somos nosotros y provocando las consecuencias que tenemos en este momento.
Los pescadores exigen levantar la veda y permitir la caza de los lobos marinos para controlar su población.
La única solución viable para los pescadores es eliminar los lobos, y eso no va a ocurrir, y lo que tenemos que aprender es a cómo se produce una interacción sana entre estos habitantes del mar, las otras especies animales que hay en Chile y también los pescadores. Tenemos que aprender a convivir con los lobos y esos son los esfuerzos a los que nosotros nos estamos dirigiendo.
Un primer paso será el censo que se realizará en febrero para determinar cuánto han crecido las poblaciones en Chile. El gobierno acordó además con los pescadores conformar una comisión de expertos que estudie el problema, además de desterrar algunas malas prácticas propiciadas por ellos mismos, como arrojar viseras que atraen a los lobos. Se resolvió también iniciar pruebas en embarcaciones con equipos de ultrasonido para ahuyentar a los lobos y máquinas que permitan subir con mayor velocidad las redes a los botes. Acuerdos internacionales firmados por Chile protegen también a la especie y su vulneración traería graves perjuicios económicos como la suspensión de la importación de Estados Unidos del salmón chileno, que genera cerca de $4,000 millones anuales. Según expertos, cazarlos también podría tener consecuencias imprevisibles sobre el equilibrio de las cadenas alimentarias.
When I got a cooking implant 7 years ago, after being profoundly deaf for my entire life, many friends started asking me, had I heard music? Did I like it? I was 20 years old then. Before I got my cooking implant, listening to music through my hearing aid sounded very flat, muted, muffled, far away. Everything blurred together. I had never heard music, not really, but that did not mean that I wasn't in some way musical. When I was a child, I played piano and guitar for several years. I enjoyed sitting down in front of the piano, getting the notes that I saw into my mind. I was able to feel the music through my fingers and through my body, holding the guitar in my hands and strumming the strings I'm really surprised by how rich it felt. When I was a child, I became obsessed with marching rhythm. When walking around the block, I would count out the steps in between each track like a metronome. 1, 2, 1, 2. I started seeing music everywhere. But in the hearing world, those experiences of touch and sound and vibration that I had did not count as music. When I was in college, I went out to a restaurant with some people, and one of them asked me,
"So you can't hear the beautiful music right now?"
When I said no, she responded,
"Wow, that makes me feel sad."
Sad. This is how some hearing people responded to the imagination that I had never heard music. But I felt like my life was already beautiful and rich without music. It was just different. Then I got a cochlear implant. A cochlear implant is a surgically implanted device that stimulates the auditory nerve to be able to hear some approximation of sound. But listening with the cochlear implant was a very different experience from listening with hearing aids. It set my skull badly and my nerves screeching. After that, I found that music jolted my core in ways I could not explain. The beat jumped out and came to life for me. When I heard the violin, I heard the ear tone vibrate through my chest and stay within my mind. But in contrast, other kinds of music just ended up sounding harsh, cacophonic, or really complicated. I could enjoy it, but I would become oversaturated and I just want to turn it off. With that silence, I become aware of my heartbeat, the vibrations in my body, the quiet in my mind. Music is not just about sound. Music also is about the body, about what happens when what we call sound escapes its vacuum and creates ripples in the world. The summer after I got my cochlear implant, I started to explore more of what music might mean to me. I picked out some notes on the piano again. I went to my first symphony concert. The physical artistry of the musicians was just as enthralling to me as hearing it. And then I tried dancing. It wasn't that I hadn't danced before, just that I felt embarrassed. One of my friends persuaded me to go dancing for the first time in years. We walked into a club and I could hear the bass vibrating through my body. And when my friend and I started singing along to the lyrics, the realization hit me. This celebration of theory, motion, sensation, and language was what mattered. Music is a celebration of theory movement. Can you hear the music? Even though I now can, I think this question misses the point. Music is also visual, physical, tactile. It weaves its rhythms through our lives. I believe music becomes more remarkable when we experience it with our whole bodies. So after my cochlear implant, I now think a better question might be,